Hi everybody, my name is Mithun Gunaratnam and I'm from SoftBank Robotics Australia. Today I just wanted to go through, some of the my experience over working with SoftBank Robotics for over 4 years, and some of the commercializing applications of these robotics that we have in the working industry at the moment. Some of the robots you might see might be familiar. You might have seen it in some of your countries or some of the local shops and shopping centers or hospitals. But I'll go through a little bit more detail about their commercial application and how the transitioning from labor workforce to robotics and the complicated issues we kind of come across and the digital transformation through that process. So just wanted to start off by giving you guys a bit of an update or a bit of an overview of SoftBank and SoftBank Robotics. So some of you might know the name SoftBank and SoftBank Group. SoftBank Group is essentially the larger investment, our parent company in Japan, Tokyo. So they are the ones known for large multi-billion-dollar investments into startup companies, tech companies, and other businesses around the globe. So they don't just focus on US-based businesses or European. They are actually all over the world investments. Some of them being, Tesla, Alibaba at the initial stages, Nvidia, and a lot of things. Part of the strategy behind the investment was our CEO, Masayoshi-san, with his legacy of starting up businesses over the course of 50 years. He has always had a bit of a passion for robotics and AI. Part of that passion has resulted in the startup and investment in 2012 of SoftBank Robotics. And SoftBank Robotics is one of the key businesses within the SoftBank portfolio that actually also carries the SoftBank name. Part of that mission statement for SoftBank Robotics is, improving people's lives. Because at the end of the day, when we're talking about AI and robotics, a lot of the controversial concepts come through from when people think, robotics, it's going to take people's jobs and things like that away. But no, at the heart of our business model and our ethos, we believe in robotics should improve humans' lives. And if we're including a commercial robot into a working setting, we want that to be able to take away tedious tasks of, laborers, humans, all together. The robot should be doing manual labor and essentially taking away the risk factors and, giving back essentially the happiness for someone to be in the workplace. We have presence globally. We have teams in the US, Europe, APAC, and Australia. I look after New Zealand and Australia. So that kind of gives you a bit of an update, a brief history of SoftBank Robotics. So we started off in 2012, and our first robot that we came to market was with, in my next slide, I'll show you, it's called the Pepper. Pepper is a humanoid robot. The application for Pepper was more so like a concierge reception, information booth sort of replacement robot. So Pepper can interact with humans, children, things like that. We found the application for Pepper to be heavily used in the educational space because the back-end API, people can integrate and write their own softwares and have their own programs. Pepper is unique in a sense where Pepper has a little iPad sort of screen display on the chest that can, display certain information, especially if it's at an event or at the start, as a concierge in the front of a building. For example, if you had a Pepper integrated into your office or your business, people walking in and you had no reception, you can just speak to Pepper and say, hey, I would like to speak to Kevin Smith. And Pepper will essentially fully integrated, be able to page Kevin Smith to come down and, do that initial interaction. With that was in 2012, and Pepper has been globally pushed, through multiple industries, multiple verticals. So there's retail applications, education applications, corporate applications, and one of the places we've actually got Pepper in Australia is one of our partners have been able to place Pepper in to the Starlight Foundation for the Children's Cancer Ward, where Pepper would essentially go and entertain the children, tell them stories. The children get to interact with Pepper, and it's all fun, and it's quite lovely to actually see that interaction between robotics and the children and the nurses around that ward space. The other robots you guys are actually going to see there is, some of the delivery robots and some cleaning robots there. Some delivery robot X1, Keenon, the Keen Butler bot at the bottom, and the Scrubber 50 and the Whiz. So at the start of the entering the market space, the first commercial robot that we came out with was called the Whiz. The Whiz is an AI autonomous vacuum cleaner, and the purpose behind that was when they looked at an industry for robotics, they try to look at multiple industry. You've got construction industry, hospitality, healthcare, and things like that. But there was one industry that has, when looking into it a bit deeper, had very little technological advancements or integration. And that we saw was cleaning industry, because for the longest time, many of the businesses that are started and are in operations today have the same mentality of there's particular way. There's only one way to mop a floor or sweep the floor, wipe a desk, and having technology integration into that industry is going to open up a lot more possibilities for jobs and also particular ways to do certain tasks. So with Wiz, we saw that in Japan, the labor force was an aging labor force. So a lot of the people were a lot older. And especially when you're looking at vacuous tasks like that, carrying a backpack vacuum, running around multiple floors, it could be quite tiring. So they looked at the opportunity as, this is a great place to start. So let's create a vacuuming robot. So there were robots in the market, like your residential vacuum cleaners like iRobot and the Roombas, but there was no real commercial application for something that could do really large floor spaces of a building. So that's where there was an opportunity for SoftBank to come in and design our own product and release it to the market. And we've had global success with that. The Wiz is quite successful in Europe, APAC, and EMEA as well. So the application behind that is, I refer to the Wiz as an entry-level robot. It's not super complicated where you need engineering degree to be able to operate the robot. It needed to be simple enough for cleaning staff to be able to set up and use straight away and not worry about it. And that essentially evolved into the next robot, which is a scrubber. So, okay, how do we complement a vacuum cleaning robot? Okay, we should invest into a company and see if there is a scrubber, like a hard floor surface cleaner, that can also do the job quite well and complement both robots. So that's where we looked at our relationship with Gaussium, and we've invested some investment into Gaussium from SoftBank Robotics. And part of that is Gaussium Robotics come under the SoftBank umbrella and the ecosystem as well. It's been a really good way to enter the market and not spend so much investment in deriving your own robots. SoftBank look at the way of partnering with companies that are already doing a really good job out there and that have really good reputations. So, that's where the Gaussium investment comes in, and the Keenbot investment comes in, because these are market leaders in what they do, and their robots do the tasks really well. So it was essentially a no-brainer for SoftBank to make those decisions. Part of that is why we are trying to expand our robotics market and our robotics landscape is it's going to be covered in the next slide. So in an ideal world, if we're thinking of, let's say, for argument's sake, it's a hotel, right? So this hotel, is using multiple different robots. So there's a whiz robot, there's a food delivery robot in the restaurant space, so hard floor cleaners cleaning in the lobby, and a butler robot delivering room service to be able to call the lift and integrate that and deliver meals to people's rooms. These are actual live examples at the moment. So SoftBank Robotics itself wants to open the platform of digitalization and AI and integrate it into our own platform, where one client has multiple different robots from multiple different companies who have purchased through us. We open up the platform for them to be able to report and understand and look at all the data driven by all the robots in the one SoftBank cloud platform. So regardless of if it's a SoftBank designed robot or a Gaussian or a Keynon, once they've been deployed by SoftBank ourselves, you'll be able to access them on our universal cloud platform. So regardless of the design of the robot, they'll be able to feed the information into our portal, and the portal will be able to decipher all that information for the hotel chain and be able to understand, okay, our vacuum robots have done all the floors today. The scrubber robot is about to go out and do the front lobby. Tray delivery robots are performing an optimum function in the restaurant area. The butler robot W3 has done 46 meal deliveries to room service today. And they'd be able to quantify and understand the production rate, I guess, in deliverables, and be able to measure that accordingly. And in the future, we're looking at enhancing some of these AI functions, integrating it with IoT devices in certain areas, and it's eventually CCTV footage to be able to identify a hazard or something spilled on the ground, and then that automatically triggering the next function to be able to send out a scrubber robot to be able to go and clean that area up in that particular area of the hotel. So this is where we're essentially heading. A lot of this technology is being developed or is ready in the robots now, but there are certain certifications and licensing and laws that we need to overcome in different regions and different countries, and also different companies, because some of the risk factors involved can actually be quite a hindrance, but businesses do want to make the right decision and do the next steps appropriately. So part of this is what an ideal world would look like with robotics, all the robots being able to talk to each other, understanding the landscape, and a client fully functioning with full robot devices with a manual labor force that's complementing. So robots that should be the ones complementing your waiter staff and your cleaning staff. So over the course of my time at SoftBank Robotics, this is one of the key things that we kind of go through. So when integrating a robotic device, regardless if it's in a building for janitorial services or if it's a hospitality robot for a restaurant, or a function center, or a club, or a casino, there are different levels of supporters and bracers in a business. So more often than not, when I do have a conversation, I'm having my conversations at the higher level, at the director level, CEO level, and understanding the importance of robotics integration into a business. But more often than not, a lot of the decisions do come down to mid-level management, the supervisors and the cleaners and the hospitality staff themselves. Because once it's all well and good for a CEO or a director or an owner of a business to make a decision and buy robotics. But at the end of the day, if your staff that you bought the robots to actually support are not using the robot, you're not going to have a successful use case or adopters, or, the robots are just going to sit there. It's not going to be used. It's not going to be the best example of technology integration. So you go through the understanding phase of a saboteur or a barrister or a resistor or a supporter. A lot of our clients find when they see the conversation of robotics being integrated, they think, oh no, they don't want to be a supporter. They want to be a resistor. They want to resist the change, because at the end of the day, they're thinking, oh no, I'm about to lose my job, or this thing's going to replace me, or my hours are going to be dropped because the robot's going to do this. So immediately they are on the back foot and they want to put their guard up and don't want to embrace it at all. They want to resist it, or some cases, I've only had one case actually of a saboteur, but we've mapped out a whole facility with the vacuuming robot. The cleaner was not very happy about this, and he didn't want to understand what the robot was going to be able to do for him. So he did sabotage the robot by deleting all the maps that we spent hours throughout the week mapping, which was only one example, but everyone usually starts off as a resistor. Then they transition to a supporter because they realize, oh wow, I don't actually need to carry this vacuum anymore, or I don't need to deliver so many plates to all these tables anymore. This robot's actually helping me. Part of the way we also integrate robotics into a business is we try to pinpoint one or two people in the business, like the cleaners or the waiters, and give them the robot and say, this is your robot. Name him if you want, or name her. And this is your support device, right? Once we do that, we also try to give them the best examples of usability. A lot of the time, I will go into a facility and I'll think, oh, this is the best way to map it. This is the best way to do it. More often than not, the cleaners actually know the best way because they're doing this task every single day. And me going in and then understanding how do they work. You can't just throw a robot into a current application and expect that to just flow correctly. You need to be able to understand, okay, this is your business expectations from the high level management, and understand what the mid-level management do also require. But at the end of the day, the person that's going to use the robot every single day is going to be the cleaner or the waiter. So you need to understand the way they work. Okay, ideally, you need to start from this end of the office and finish at this end. And directors are going to know that. The cleaners know that, and they're the ones you need to be able to get that support from. And once they understand it, and once they really embrace the tool of the robot and how it has actually enhanced their life, they actually do not want to get rid of it. They actually want to get more robots, and they have essentially a personal bond with the robot, because one of our clients, named his robot. They got two robots, and he named his robots Tom and Jerry. And Tom and Jerry are his robots. He feels responsible for them. Part of this whole process and integration is one of the key things that we've been able to identify is also job opportunities. One of our clients has actually, across their cleaning contract, they've actually gotten over 40 robots and across the plane, and they've been able to create a job based on this robotic. So this cleaner started off just as a cleaner when we first met him 4 years ago, and now he is a robotics expert in the business. So now they fly him around the country to be able to integrate the robotics into new contracts and new facilities and train new staff of how to use the robot. And that was purely through just robotics, just coming into the workplace, starting off as a resistor, then becoming a supporter, and now he's an embracer. And that's the whole transition. And it's a very similar case to hospitality, because waiters, staff, carrying the plates and big loads of dirty dishes, and start the robot off just doing the tedious task of picking up dirty plates, taking it to the restaurant kitchen, and then maybe integrate it later into doing food delivery. So it's essentially open for interpretation. So this is some of the feedback that we've seen, and some of the success cases that's actually helped us during global pandemic, because it's opened up opportunities for robotics in intervention, for technology actually helping. So especially when everyone's walking around with masks and no human contact during crisis, we saw robotics as an opportunity to be able to be put into facilities to do the tedious cleaning, while cleaners and janitorial staff can go do high touch services like wiping down handles, elevators, and more crucial cleaning. And also, especially in the hospitality industry, we also saw the opportunity for non-contact food delivery. So food can be delivered to a person at a restaurant if the restaurant was open. And I'm not sure about many of your regions, but in Australia, a lot of the restaurants are closed. So it was all takeaway. So at the same time, we saw there was opportunity, and this was actually an opportunity where we were able to catapult some of the robots into the field and put out deals for our clients, because we know the clients were also struggling, right, with labor staff, because a lot of people were getting sick and they didn't have enough cleaners or staff to be able to do the task. So SoftBank were able to identify an opportunity and gap and not capitalize on it, but also we wanted to show we support our businesses and we support our clients and our partners. So we essentially gave a lot of the robots on free trials, on long-term trials, for clients to be able to use a robot, embrace it, actually understand, look, in the most chaotic time, we're using robots and we're actually succeeding. So we wanted to be able to show that to the clients and actually give them the opportunity to be able to grow as well and come out stronger on the other side. So I guess the trade delivery portfolio. So you might see this in different restaurants in different regions around the world. How essentially the majority of the robots work with is laser LiDAR sensors. Just to go through a little bit more of the technical aspect of it, the majority of the robots use LiDAR sensors to be able to sense objects and obstacles in its path. They also use a lot of 3D cameras and 2D cameras to be able to identify objects and to be able to use it as a navigational application. So essentially having the camera married with the LiDAR sensor, it essentially creates a bit of a topographical map, if you could say, for the robot's mapping ability. So being able to put those images and LiDAR sensor together, it kind of creates a landscape view of tables, chairs, walls, obstacle pot plans, things like that. And this is what helps the robot navigate around sites, basically, a restaurant setting. Okay, there's a bunch of tables here. So it actually uses also the autonomous positioning and navigation to be able to avoid obstacles. So for example, if the restaurant was mapped for so many people, so many seats, and then all of a sudden someone decides to put a chair in the middle of the restaurant, the robot has the ability to identify that as an obstacle and develop its own path around in a safe way. Because of what the LiDAR and the 3D cameras can see, it can essentially find if there's a safe path, or if there is no safe path because on the other side is a wall and the chair is dead set in the middle of the room, the robot will essentially politely ask, "Excuse me, I need to deliver the food. Excuse me, I need to be able to move." And if still nothing happens, it'll send in essentially a push notification to the restaurant supervisor, or it'll buzz and sit there for the time being until the chair is moved. It's not designed to be able to move anything, so it'll just sit there because it doesn't want to bump into anyone or cause any hindrance. So it'll just sit there. Otherwise, if it's navigated in multiple different routes, the robot will be able to find an alternative route. Because if you made a whole loop around the restaurant, the robot will be able to jump back on one particular path and go back to where it needs to go. So some of the return on investments, we've done some studies in Europe, and a lot of the businesses this study was mainly done for the Whiz robot, the vacuum cleaner, for that European team, and they did it with multiple different big cleaning businesses, and they were able to essentially identify, the gap in the area where a cleaner is, versus a Whiz robot, and we actually do not want to use that word versus. It's actually, like I said before, it's a cobot. It's meant to be enhanced. It's meant to be your partner. So integrating a robot, a Whiz robot, into this cleaning business's schedule, we're able to actually see the human productivity increase as well, because then we're able to go and focus on other tasks, and essentially looking at the cost rate of a human vacuuming. At the end of the day, when there's a business that's looking at a human vacuuming, it's never a comprehensive vacuum. Whereas a Whiz robot is designed to be able to do that fully comprehensively, and you only have to map it out once, and the robot will do it every single day. So the cleaner will be able to focus on other tasks. The cleaning company can upgrade the contract to look at other tasks that they haven't been able to actually focus on, and say, okay, we don't actually have the contract to clean bathrooms. Let's upgrade the contract and say we can cover that. Now that we have the use of robotics, our actual staff, we don't actually need to grow that staff, because our staff have actually available time to be able to focus on other tasks. So these are some of the ways that we've been able to actually open up the market and get the understanding in the field. So part of the way we work with our partners and our end user clients is establishing the commercial value proposition. We go through with a proof of concept and let them feel and understand what the robot would be like in a real life scenario if they were to purchase it or integrate it into their workforce. Then we look at technically doing the deployment, training and enablement with the staff, being able to do the first level of support that they needed, like how do they do the mapping? If something was to happen, how do they quickly rectify the solution? We also provide our service and warranty, and at the end of the day, we also do our customer success, making sure we're building up the client's expectation and the usability, and making sure our clients are really happy at the end of the day, and they're actually going to continually invest in robotics and technology in the future. So that's pretty much a very high level way of seeing SoftBank Robotics in our commercial space and commercializing industrial robots, basically. So my name is Mithun Gunaratnam again, and feel free to add me on LinkedIn or reach out to me via email for any questions or conversations you guys might be interested in. But yeah, thank you so much for your time, Guillermo. I appreciate being invited to speak today.